Tableau vivant, French for living picture, is a style of artistic presentation, or often shortened to simply tableau. It most often describes a group of suitably costumed actors, carefully posed and often theatrically lit. By extension, it also applied to works of visual art including painting, photography and sculpture, featuring artists' models in similar arrangements, a style used frequently in the works of the Romantic, aesthetic, Symbolist, Pre-Raphaelite, and Art Nouveau movements. In the theatrical context, the actors, models do not speak or move throughout the duration of the display. The approach thus marries the art forms of the stage with those of the more static visual arts, and it has thus been of interest to modern photographers. The most recent heyday of the tableau vivant was the late 19th to early 20th centuries, during confluence of the above-mentioned art movements, and also featuring posers plastiques, virtually nude tableaux vivants, providing a form of erotic entertainment, both on stage and in print. Origin. Occasionally, a mass was punctuated with short dramatic scenes and painting-like tableaus. They were a major feature of festivities for royal weddings, coronations and royal entries into cities. Often the actors imitated statues of painting, much in the manner of modern street entertainers but in larger groups, and mounted on elaborate temporary stands along the path of the main procession. The history of Western visual arts in general, until the modern era, has had a focus on symbolic, arranged presentation, and was heavily dependent on stationary artists' models in costume, essentially small-scale tableaux vivants with the artist as temporary audience. The realism movement, with more naturalistic depictions, did not begin until the mid-19th century, a direct reaction against Romanticism and its heavy dependence on stylized tableau format. On stage, before radio, film and television, tableaux vivants were popular forms of entertainment, even in frontier towns. Before the age of color reproduction of images, the tableau was sometimes used to recreate artworks on stage, based on an etching, a sketch of a painting. This could be done as an amateur venture in a drawing room, or as a more professionally produced series of tableaux presented on a theater stage, one following another, usually to tell a story without requiring all the usual trappings and production of a full theater performance. They thus influenced the form taken by later Victorian and Edwardian era magic lantern shows, and perhaps also sequential narrative comic strips. Tableaux vivants were often performed as the basis for school nativity plays in England during the Victorian period. The custom is still practiced. At Loughborough High School, several tableaux are performed each year at the school carol service, including the depiction of an engraving en grisette. Theatrical censorship in Britain and the United States forbade actresses to move when nude or semi-nude on stage, so tableaux vivants had a place in risque entertainment for many years. In the early 1900s, German dancer Olga Desmond appeared in Schon Heights of Bend, in which she posed nude in living pictures, imitating classical works of art. In the 19th century, tableaux vivants took such titles as Nymphs Bathing and Diana of the Huntress, and were to be found at such places as the Hall of Rome in Great Windmill Street, London. Other venues were the Coal Hole in the Strand and the Cider Cellar in Maiden Lane. Nude and semi-nude posers plastics were also a frequent feature of variety shows in the U.S., first on Broadway in New York City, then elsewhere in the country. The Ziegfeld Follies featured such tableaux from 1917. The Windmill Theatre in London featured nude posers plastics on stage. It was the first, and for many years the only, venue for them in 20th-century London. Tableaux vivants were often included in fairground sideshows. Such shows had largely died out by the 1970s. Tableaus remain a major attraction at the annual pageant of the Masters in Laguna Beach, California. Photographic tableau. Jean-François Chevrier was the first to use the term tableau in relation to a form of art photography, which began in the 1970s and 1980s in an essay titled The Adventures of the Picture Form in the History of Photography in 1989. The initial translation of this text substitutes the English word picture for the French word tableau. However, Michael Fried retains the French term when referring to Chevrier's essay, because according to Fried, there is no direct translation into English for tableau in this sense. While picture is similar, it lacks the connotations of constructedness, of being the product of an intellectual act that the French word carries. Other texts and Clement Greenberg's theory of medium specificity also cover this topic. The key characteristics of the contemporary photographic tableau according to Chevrier are: firstly, they are designed and produced for the wall, summoning a confrontational experience on the part of the spectator that sharply contrasts with the habitual processes of appropriation and projection whereby photographic images are normally received and consumed. By this, Chevrier notes that scale and size is obviously important if the pictures are to hold the wall, but size has another function: it distances the viewer from the object, requiring one to stand back from the picture to take it all in. This confrontational experience, Fried notes, is actually quite a large break from the conventional reception of photography, which up to that point was often consumed in books or magazines. The photographic tableau has its roots not in the theatrical tableau vivant, but in pictorialist photography, such as that of Alfred Stieglitz, a movement with its roots in aestheticism, which already made heavy use of the tableau as a non-theatrical visual art style. Pictorialism, according to Jeff Wall, could be seen as an attempt by photographers to imitate painting. Pictorialist photography was dazzled by the spectacle of Western painting and attempted, to some extent, to imitate it in acts of pure composition, lacking the means to make the surface of its pictures unpredictable and important. The first phase of pictorialism, Stieglitz's phase, emulated the fine graphic arts, reinvented the beautiful look, set standards for gorgeousness of composition, and faded. Quote, however, photography did have the ability to become unpredictable and spontaneous. This was achieved by making photographs related to the inherent capabilities of the camera itself, and this, Wall argues, was a direct result of photojournalism and the mass media and pop culture industries. By divesting itself of the encumbrances and advantages inherited from older art forms, reportage, or the spontaneous fleeting aspect of the photographic image pushes toward a discovery of qualities apparently intrinsic to the medium, qualities that must necessarily distinguish the medium from others and through the self-examination of which it can emerge as a modernist art on a plane with others. The argument is that, unlike most other art forms, photography can profit from the capture of chance occurrences. Through this process, the snapshot, the accidental image, photography invents its own concept of the picture, a hybrid form of the Western picture and the spontaneous snapshot. This is the stage whereby Wall argues that photography enters a modernist dialectic. Wall claims that unpredictability is key to modern aesthetics. This new concept of the picture, which Wall proposes, with the compositional aspects of the Western picture combined with the unpredictability that the camera affords through its shutter, can be seen in the work of many contemporary photographic artists including Luc Delahaye, Andreas Gursky, Thomas Struth, Irene Caesar, and Philip Lorca-Dicaucha. The tableau as a form still dominates the art photography market. As Fried notes, arguably the most decisive development in the rise of the new art photography has been the emergence, starting in the late 1970s and gaining impetus in the 1980s and after, of what the French critic Jean-François Chevrier has called the tableau form. However, there appears to be only a handful of young emerging artists working within the tableau form. Examples include Florian Mayer-Icon, Matthew Porter and Peter Funch. Film. There is a 2014 feature film produced entirely in tableau format titled In the Crosswind.